just give you some idea of what we've done with the SPLOST in 2016 revenue. So tonight's open house will be three parts. I'm going to talk about the budget very briefly, and the reasons very briefly because there isn't much to talk about when I propose it. Then we'll get into the SPLOST, and I'll break down what our recommendations are that we're looking at. And this is input for the county too, the people in the county. So we have all these boxes around here with suggestions. If you have any ideas, or if your idea is I don't want to renew the SPLOST, there's a box for that too. Right? So we're going to make sure we cover all the bases. And then the last part will be questions and answers. When we're done with questions and answers, I'll just turn you loose to walk around and look at all the information that's being posted here. Okay. So again, the budget for the summer, pretty simple, no millage increase. The tax digest is thanks to the development spurred by so many different entities in the county, not just the Braves and the Battery, but so many other parts of the county are bringing the revenue to allow us to leave the millage rate alone. We're going to reduce the water fund transfer, continue it down from what it was 10% 2 years ago. We're going to start down to some number that's much less than 10%. Why do we need to do that? Because the water system is an enterprise system, and they need revenue too. And we took $20 million out of their till every year, and we never gave it back to them. And you take that kind of money out, they got to do a couple things. They either have to raise your rates or raise your rates. So by leaving the money with them, they're allowed to leave their water rates alone for a while, and you benefit from it. But more importantly, it makes us as a county, we have to be able to provide our services with the revenue that we're given and not taking it from somebody else. It's just not fair to the water system. And the last one is some kind of a merit paid for the county staff. We're not sure what that is yet. That's it. Pretty straightforward budget this year. So hopefully that in July, when we propose the millage rate and we pass the budget, it will be as simple as the discussion I just had here. All right, so let's go on to SPLOST. We're actually asking people to renew the SPLOST for a number of reasons. I just break it down here with the famous pie chart. We have two big county priorities. One is DOT, out of the $277 million that the county will be, out of $498 million that the county will receive from SPLOST. And remember, that's an estimated revenue. As I was telling somebody today, nobody saw the recession in 2008 when they passed the 2005 SPLOST, and nobody saw the coronavirus impact when they passed the 2016 SPLOST. So any revenue that we project is a projection based on past history, but nothing's guaranteed. So the county will get $490 million out of that, and $277 million will go to DOT, and of that $277 million, $227 million go to what I believe is our number one priority, that's repaving of the roads. And the reason we're in that fix is because we seriously underfunded the paving of the roads in previous SPLOST. So I give you the famous chart here. We have something called the overall condition index of the roads. And we like to keep it around 60. And not 60% of the roads are in great condition. It's just a numerical assignment that the engineers have assigned to the road conditions. At the turn of the century, we were at 60, right? Right now, in 2020, we're somewhere down around 52. And if we keep funding the repaving of the roads that we have been at the current rate, we will drop down below 50 here in the next couple of years, on our way down to 45. And what is 45? It's potholes everywhere. And I just tell people all the time, you can pay me now to do it right the first time, or you can pay me a lot more money later on to fix it. And because if we underfunded the split paving of the roads, we're going to have to spend a lot of money to fix it. It's regrettable, but that's the facts. So out of the $277 million, $227 million will go to repaving the roads to bring them back up to an overall condition index of 60. Now, we will get additional money from the state through other grants, so it's not just the county using SPLOST revenue to pay for repaving. We traditionally have a great relationship with the ARC, and they've been very, very cooperative in providing us additional revenues to help us with our road repaving. So in fact, we will be using other additional revenue potentially other than ours, to get our road condition back up to OCI of 60. But again, this is still gonna take us, to, it's 2020 right now. This thing doesn't kick in until 2022. So we're probably looking somewhere at the end of this decade before we get the road conditions back to where we are. Unless the board decides to do other things here to accelerate that repayment. So that's why so much of the proposed SPLOST projects are going to DOT. The second biggest one is public safety. As I tell people, public safety is our most important priority, but it is not our only priority. There are a lot of other things here that we need to do to ensure high quality service to all the residents of the county. But clearly this SPLOST, we'll be doing some things here to continue to enhance our public safety and make sure we have a public safety department that can produce 21st century public safety to all our citizens. And then the third part of the pie, which is even larger than public safety, is to the cities. They're going to get about 25% of that, of the $810 million, which is roughly, I think, $200 million, somewhere in the neighborhood of $210 million. They're the ones that convinced me why we needed to continue to SPLOST the time period that we did. Why is that? I'll give you one specific example. Let's say I want to build something for $10 million, that's a building. I can collect $10 million, probably in 3 or 4 months. It would take the city of Austell more than 10 years to collect $10 million for a building. Just because you live in the city of Austell doesn't make that building any cheaper than if you live in unincorporated county. $10 million is a $10 million no matter where you build it. And the city of Austell, all the cities actually have a recapitalization and a modernization program that they're heavily dependent upon SPLOST to continue, because they do not bring the revenues that the county does, for a number of reasons, okay? So the bottom line here is that the mayor's convinced me, after my initial thought of keeping to have a smaller period for the SPLOST, they needed the 6 years to continue their efforts to make sure their cities are what they plan it to be. And we treasure our relationship with all the cities. It's a great relationship, and I want to make sure that their success is our success, and our success is their success. So they're going to get $210 million out of this for their own particular projects. I do not talk about those projects because I think it's in the best interest of the city to when we have these open houses within the city limits, to have the mayors or their staff talk about those projects. So I don't go through and say something that's not correct. Likewise, tonight, I will not talk about any specific district projects. I believe it's best that the district commissioner will talk about the projects that they're recommending for the SPLOST, to give their reasons why they put them on the SPLOST list. Okay? So, this chart here breaks down that $810 million pie. Again, talked about the $498 million that's coming to the county and how we're breaking that down. And the slide, on the part of the slide on the left side, I'll have further breakdowns for you on succeeding slides. So don't worry about if you don't capture the numbers now, you'll see the successful slides. Countywide projects, a number of things, like for instance, where today for safety reasons, a lot of our ball fields now have AstroTurf on or synthetic turf, and we're converting a lot of our recreation fields to synthetic turf. Those are countywide projects. And then we have the city projects, and then inside, also, I'm sorry, the countywide projects, you'll see a separate slide for that. And the community impact projects, that's a fancy term for those are the commissioner projects. And they're all going to get roughly about $11 million out of this slot, out of this SPLOST. But ladies and gentlemen, $11 million over 6 years is not a lot of money. Okay? And I'll just give you one example. It's $1 million a mile to do a sidewalk. So, they can spend $2 million a year over 6 years to get to roughly $11 million. And they pay 2 miles of sidewalk in that without $2 million. So it's they're being very limited into what it is they can do for discretionary projects that respond to their constituents. But unfortunately, we have larger priorities this time as opposed to the last SPLOST. All right, so let's break it down. DOT. Again, I've already said that a number of times, how much we're doing for road resurfacing. The remainder of the money is going to go to traffic signal improvements to mitigate some of our traffic issues here. Believe it or not, you don't necessarily have to spend a lot of money to move traffic along better. Sometimes you can use modern technology, software and hardware to move the traffic along. And we're going to be using more of that at the traffic signal intersections to monitor traffic, to adjust traffic flow as the load demands. And then of course, a sidewalk, particularly the schools, is always a big issue. We have a number of new schools being built here in the county, or a number of new schools that are being expanded upon the current campus. So that changes the nature of the intersections around the schools. And safety for our kids is paramount. So we're going to be sinking a significant amount of resources along with the school system to ensure that the infrastructure around the schools, whether they're new or whether they're renovated, meets 21st century safety guidelines. Okay, public safety. We're going to continue to upgrade our facilities. We believe that public safety requires you have the best led, best equipped, and best trained public safety officers in our public safety department. But you have to have logistical and operational structure behind them to allow them to do their job. And certainly, the training that's required of police officers today is significant. Between the iPhone and other media now, all our officers, are being observed 365 days a year by different sources. So we have to make sure that our officers have the proper training, that when they encounter the public, all right, they're well aware of the fact that it's a much different requirement by police today to community police and to address the public. And that requires a lot more training. It's not just about driving your cars fast anymore, or shooting, taking your weapon out. It's much deeper than that. Our training program right now for all our police officers is 6 months. And then after that 6 months, they are on the road for another year with a field training officer before they're finally allowed to go out and operate by themselves. An 18-month training program. So not only is it important that we provide them the appropriate compensation and benefits, but we have to make sure that they have the structure that in 18 months, when we finally turn them loose to patrol on their own, they're fully equipped and fully trained to do their job. And that just takes a significant amount of logistical support. So we're already building a brand new training facility, and to complement that training facility, we're doing a brand new training firing range. That training range will be inside. Okay. The current one is outside, so it's subject to the elements, but this will be inside, along adjacent to the same campus as a new training facility. So if the cost seems a little bit high, it just goes back to the point that buildings are expensive today. You have to meet certain codes, and in order to accommodate the necessary safety fit measures that go with an indoor training range, that's why the cost of that building may seem a bit high to you. But there's other things we're doing here to upgrade existing structures and also add new ones, like the new fire station number 20. All right, and then of course the amenities. A long time ago, we as a public decided we wanted to have amenities here in Cobb County, and we wanted lots of them, and we have lots of them. But some of these facilities are now anywhere from 30 to 40 years old, and they need to have renovations done to them. We're not going to be building any new facilities. We need to renovate the ones that we have. Most of them require brand new HVAC units, plumbing, security in this day and age. Just a lot of upgrades that have to be met in order for us to respond to the current environment that we live in. And that's why you see on this list here all the things that are going to be done here to upgrade many of our facilities that we have throughout the county. All right. And then these are the countywide projects. The animal service shelter we have down in County Services Road, I don't even know how old that building is. All right, but it is old. And the reality is that we have people in this county who are very passionate about the lives of the pets that we have in those facilities. We have to bring this facility up to standard. And there's no way you can renovate that building to meet the new requirements that are, we saw with the board last month, we went through and we tried to adopt a new adoption of animal ordinance. There's just people here who are very, very passionate about animals, and we have to respond to that. In order to do that, we have to have a modern facility. So we're gonna be building a brand new animal service facility in the same campus where we have the existing one. Jail security, you know, we have 2,000 people that are guests at the jail roughly every night. And unless you've been in there and spent a night in there and seen what those officers have to go through, $6 million upgrade probably doesn't mean much to you. But it means a lot to those officers that are in that building every single night. They have to ensure that the prisoners are taken care of appropriately, are safely accommodated, but also their safety for the officers in that building. Because the bottom, there are some people in there who are just not nice people. So we'll be upgrading the jail to respond to that. And then of course judicial technology. I think most people would be very, very surprised to understand the magnitude and expanse of our judicial system here in the county. You know, we have Superior Court, we have the state courts, we have juvenile courts, we have all kinds of courts. And that's to handle a county of 760,000 people. And, you know, a lot of them get in trouble with the law. And it's not just important that they have their time in court, but it's important that whatever happens in that court is properly documented and recorded to make sure that your law is protected under the Fourth Amendment. In order to do that, you know, to handle that many people, we have to have technology that responds to that. So we're going to be spending, continue to spend resources to make sure that our judges and their staffs can do their job every day. And more importantly, those who come before the judges make sure that their rights are protected too, and that anything that happens in those courts can be properly documented. All right, and that's it. That is it. So the boards around here simply expand on this slideshow. Okay. So I just asked you, after you do the Q&A here, just walk around here and ask the staffers here any question you might have specifically about them. And then if you have any questions or suggestions, please, you know, go ahead and put them in the suggestion box. And this is our third town hall or open house in 3 nights. Somewhere probably about the middle of next week, we'll start taking all those suggestions we have here. We'll start to adjust this presentation to reflect what we're hearing in the suggestion box, because this county does listen to its people. So with that, I'm going to open the floor to questions. Yes.
I'm not really clear on why special purpose sales tax pays for road repaving.
Sure. Right.
To me, if road repaving was something that was done by the county long before special purpose sales tax
Absolutely.
were around,
Right.
why is money from that sales tax going towards what I thought our regular taxes should pay for?
Yeah. Well, somewhere about 20 years ago, the former board decided that they were going to transfer money out of the general fund taxes to have those projects paid for by SPLOST. Okay? And once they did that, they set themselves down on a road that's hard to reverse. Because in order to take the $227 million out of SPLOST and put it back in the general fund, okay, that's about $50 million a year, all right? But by the time you get done with everything, that's roughly about a 1.6 or 1.7 mil increase that we'd have to add to the general fund. And it would be very difficult for that politically to happen in the county. I don't know any commissioner that would stand up there and advertise for a 1.7 mil increase to the public and stay in office.
Well, I mean, right now you're kind of assuming that this is gonna pass. If it
No,
doesn't
I'm not
pass,
assuming that at all. I just want to know, because then, if it doesn't pass, then the board has a very tough decision what to do. Because, you know, the reality is not, I think part of the thinking is that not all the revenue that's being paid for out of SPLOST comes out of the county people. Somewhere in the neighborhood of, I've heard a number of 15%, that seems kind of reasonable to me. 50% of the people who don't live in Cobb County pay the 1 cent tax, and that helps us to offset some of our expenses. So that could have been one of the thoughts 20, 25 years ago. But like I said, I wasn't around. I understand why. I think the thought process is that it's always good to lower your millage rate. Everybody loves that. But once you do something like that, it's one thing to lower the millage rate by 1/10 of a mil or 1/2 a mil. It's something else to get to a point, like we did right now, where we'd have to raise the millage rate by 1.6 mils roughly.
Where would that
to
put
offset
you
it.
in relation to other counties?
I'm sorry?
Where would that put Cobb County in
You know, let
relation
me see your,
to other counties?
yeah, that's a good question. All right, so, what that would do is that would put us, that would put us, look at the back of the handout you have here, okay? It would put us roughly equivalent to Gwinnett. A little bit less, still less than Gwinnett, and it would still put us way below DeKalb, okay? And I can't tell you about Atlanta or Fulton, although Atlanta in 2017 was 22 mils. So we'd still be below that.
I mean, Cobb County is a well-run county, I just feel like that special purpose sales tax should be for special purposes.
I don't disagree with you in principle, all right?
Yeah.
I do. I just know what it would take to go and sit down here and try to convince the taxpayer to add 1.6 mils to the millage rate.
Like when I moved from Buckhead to Cobb County, my water bill per gallon was 1/3 of what I was
Sure,
paying in the
right.
city of Atlanta. So I mean, you guys run things well, and you don't have all your leaders going to jail like some of the counties do. It's, you know, I mean,
We're pretty proud of that.
well, it's not. That special option sales tax shouldn't be a game ender if it doesn't get passed.
Well,
It sounds to me like it's gonna be.
it's a very conservative county. And any kind of millage increase, all right? Even the technical one where we don't roll the millage rate back, but because we don't roll it back, it's defined by the state as a tax increase. That gets a lot, of discussion. So I'm just talking from where I come from my end of it, having been here 3 years now. I think it would be very difficult to do an open house throughout the county and convince the people that why would we want to change something that we've had for 20 years that seems to be working. Yeah, that's all I'm
It's
saying.
working because it keeps getting passed, but.
Well,
it stopped working.
Well, the first two that I'm aware of passed by 90 votes. These have never been gimmies, all right? The last one passed by more than 90 votes, but it wasn't a landslide. The SPLOST has always been something that the county residents have looked at very carefully, and they vote, once they have all the facts, all right, then they vote by what they hear and what they're being presented. So, I'm not gonna say that the track record over the last year, we passed the last three, is a guarantee of this one, because this one is much different. In the sense there are no tier 2 and tier 3 projects on this list. It's all tier 1, all right? Because to me, a tier 2 and tier 3 project opens up the door that you're just simply putting projects in there to account for money you may get in. It's either a tier 1 project or it's not. It's important and you have to fund it, or it shouldn't be in there at all. You shouldn't be putting something in there to plan for a really good day, we have extra money. The other part is that the SPLOST originally was designed to, like, for instance, to build a courtroom, right, stuff like that. And somewhere along the line, they expanded the menu of what could be bought with that. And again, I'm not trying to point fingers at the previous administration. I wasn't here for that. I don't know what the rationale was for it, okay? But you can clearly tell that even with the SPLOST taking things like the paving off the general fund tax, it still barely got through in 2005 and the one before that, right? The one in 2014, 2011, 2005 and 2011 passed by about 90 votes. The one that passed in 2014 passed by a little bit bigger margin. So there's no such thing as a gimme with SPLOST. I'll guarantee that. The people in this county, if they're not comfortable with it, they won't vote for it. If they don't have all the facts and they don't believe they know what they're getting for their money, they will not vote for it. So I'm not taking any bets on this one. I'm just presenting the facts. Yes, Ron.
Mike, I think you would agree that the issue that Bert just raised, I have been by far the most vocal voice in all of Cobb County for years that we should find a way to put all of the annually reoccurring necessities back into the budget. And Sam Mullins removed road resurfacing from the budget and put it into SPLOST in 2005, and then in the Great Recession, in 2010, the Board of Commissioners, which Mike wasn't even on the Board of Commissioners then, removed all of the other annually reoccurring necessities from the budget and put all of it into the SPLOST. So I'm the only person who worked with a large group who actually put together a plan that you and I have discussed, that could actually provide the funding source to put all that stuff back into the budget. And it would take an absolute minimum of 3 years to get everything done to be able to transition back to that point. So at this point, we've been doing road resurfacing in the SPLOST since the 2005 SPLOST. That's the funding source. That's the only funding source we have, other than a few $1 million that we get from the state of LMIG money,
Right.
which covers what, 15% of what we need on road resurfacing. So I don't see where we have a choice, and one of the biggest complaints people made about the last two SPLOSTs, the project list that was put together in 2010 and 2014, is that it was full of all sorts of frivolous spending, what Bob Ott likes to call wants, not needs. There is no frivolous spending in here. I mean, everything in here is going to go to absolute necessities, and we're paying a tax that we're already paying. You're not increasing the taxes, you're continuing a tax that we're already paying for 6 more years, which gives us time. If you're really interested, I'll be happy to get together with anybody who's interested and show you the plan that our group already put together that could actually succeed in putting all of these annually reoccurring necessities back into the budget, but it could not possibly be implemented in less than 3 years.
I think it's also important to remember that during the recession, that drove us to make decisions that probably we would not have made in other circumstances. But
I agree.
the effort was to try and maintain as many services as possible. You know, there's a high degree of expectation by the public for the services we provide. You know, our models expect the best, and when they go in there, they expect the best. So I think that my sense was that in 2011, when we put that SPLOST together in the middle of the recession, we were trying to find ways to keep things open and meet a certain standard. And I don't think anybody that had been in the where those commissioners were at that time would have probably done much different. Because the only other option would have been to close them. And they just simply didn't want to do that. So it was a compromise. The trouble is that once we did that, we dug ourselves into a hole, all right? And now, and look, and I hear the other commissioners, there are commissioners who say we need to be moving more stuff out of SPLOST back in the general fund, and we are in fact are doing that, okay? It's incremental, because we still have to fix all the shortfalls that we never funded during the recession.
Right.
And I'm hoping.
Which pocket is paying it out of?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. And it's one of those decisions where the best you can hope for is we just try to tell you what our position is and why we're doing it, and then show you all how we're going to get there with what we're doing. All right, that's sometimes the best you can get, and it's up to the voters to decide whether or not they agree with that path. So you know, it's hard to believe that in this time of prosperity that we're still trying to recover from something that happened, you know, that ended technically, you know, probably 7 or 8 years ago. But I can assure you, we have recapitalization efforts in this county, because remember, it's a large county, all right? And you have fire engines that cost $1 million, and you have pavers, sweepers that cost $1 million. You know, it doesn't take long where, you know, you add up to a lot of money real quickly in order to try to address most of the contingencies planned and otherwise. So I just want to sit here, and again, I'm not a big believer in throwing people under the bus. It is what it is. They made their decisions, and we're just trying now to adjust to the new realities. But I can assure you that the commissioners on this list here, nothing's ever perfect. They would like to see more in certain directions. And the bottom line is that once they hear from all of you, we're going to have to vote on this sometime in probably June, because we got to get it on the ballot, all right? And I just try to be realistic about telling people what all the consequences are of one action or the other. Okay? If we pass this, this is what you'll get. If this isn't passed, then we have some hard decisions to make at the board. Other questions? Yes?
Mike, we have some wonderful communities in the county that are not incorporated.
Yes.
Vinings is one of them. As you know, we put together a Vinings vision plan that is really, everything in really points to the history and the class and the quality of, that we are developing in the community. So much of, when you're not incorporated, you don't have fund resources that you would if you're incorporated as a city.
Sure, right.
And I've seen that basically the unincorporated group is only getting 6% of the total allocation that you've got in this thing. And I know this is probably in cement right now, but the concern that is, how do we take our projects as an unincorporated community? We can't raise 2 million knocking on doors. I mean, it's got to come from something. We can't do bonds. We can't do the normal things everybody else can do. So I wish there was some consideration to either the amount or some way that we can get as far as our community would be as other unincorporated would be to have with these projects.
Sure, and it's a great point because, first of all, Commissioner Rod has done a fabulous job with these master plans. I mean, I really had my hats on the off. I mean, he had a true vision when he first came into office, and it's just so nice to watch his plans coming into fruition. But that required being able to get the community together to agree on something, which in itself is no small feat sometimes.
That's correct.
But that's the beauty of these open houses. These projects are not set in concrete. All right? There will be a lot of give and take at the end of these open houses with the commissioners. All right, and remember, I'm only one vote. Even though I love, my priority is the repaving, there are other commissioners who have other priorities. And this board, as we all know, is not afraid to speak its mind, all right? There's a lot of give and take in this board. So I want to assure you that what you put in the boxes tonight make a difference. But more importantly, what you tell your commissioner is probably even more important, all right? Because particularly Commissioner Ott, he's got a lot of experience, got a lot of credibility. He can bring a lot of those things, that change to happen, because commissioners have that power to do that. But more importantly, because we as the board, and despite all the free-for-all we go through, in the end, we always come up with, a middle ground somewhere that we all can agree on more or less. So what I would encourage you to do is get with Commissioner Ott, okay? And if you have some specific things that you'd like to see on this list that's not there, bring that up to him.
We do have that.
Okay.
Would you like a copy?
Sure. I'm happy to. I just tell you, I never get it.
We brought the answer to that question.
Okay, that's fine.
We got it here, we got it listed.
Okay, well, as long as he's got it, I'll look at it.
But give us some help on this.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
We really are excited about what's taking place, and we'd like to see.
Absolutely, I hear what you're saying.
As much support as we can
Yeah,
get on this.
all right, just as long as you don't want to incorporate yourself into a new city, all right? Then we'll have an
Well,
issue.
two evils, I guess.
But again, I want to show you, these are proposals,
Yeah.
all right? You as the people, you have the power. I just want to say that 100 times. The power that we have at the board comes from you. And this board listens to its constituents. Now, we have to make hard calls, all right? Because there are so many good things that people want us to do, but we're bound by what? The military.